Next morning, Taehyung woke slowly. Warmth surrounded him, steady, familiar. He realized first that his cheek was pressed against a chest, rising and falling beneath his ear, then that an arm was wrapped firmly around his waist, holding him like he might disappear if let go. Jungkook. Tae didn't move right away. He listened to Jungkook's breathing, deep, calm, the kind of breathing that meant home. I'm awake, Cookie, Tae whispered softly, just to test the moment. The arm around him tightened immediately. I know, baby, Jungkook murmured, his voice rough with sleep. You always get quiet first. Taehyung smiled. He shifted just enough to look up, his eyes tracing Jungkook's relaxed face. No armor, no CEO sharpness. Just him. You didn't leave, Tae said, barely audible. Jungkook opened one eye. Wasn't planning to, he replied gently. Especially not after last night. Jungkook brushed a thumb over Tae's cheek, slow and absent-minded. How do you feel? He asked quietly. Taehyung thought for a moment. Light, he said softly. The kitchen. Later, wrapped in oversized hoodies, they drifted into the kitchen. Taehyung sat on the counter, legs swinging slightly as he watched Jungkook make coffee, familiar, unhurried movements. You look different, Tae said suddenly. Jungkook glanced over his shoulder. Different how? Calmer, Tae replied. Like you don't have to carry everything alone right now. Jungkook paused, then nodded faintly. Because I don't, he said quietly. I have you. He handed Tae a warm mug. Careful, Jungkook murmured. It's hot. Taehyung took it, their fingers brushing. Thank you for everything, Cook, he said softly. Jungkook leaned in, resting his forehead against Tae's. Not now, he replied gently. Not ever say thank you. They stood there for a while, coffee slowly cooling, morning sunlight spilling into the room. Taehyung rested his head on Jungkook's shoulder. Promise me something? Tae asked. Anything. Even when life gets loud again, come back to this, Tae said. Come back to us. Jungkook kissed the top of Tae's head. I already have, he whispered. Every day. Before goodbye, the office floor buzzed softly, not with urgency, but with something gentler. Taehyung stood near the glass wall, holding a slim folder to his chest, his eyes drifting over the space that had once terrified him, and now felt earned. So, Jimin said, bumping his shoulder lightly, an international intern turned legend. Leaving already? Taehyung laughed, his eyes softening. I didn't turn into a legend, he said. I just learned how to become independent. Serena smiled, stepping closer and straightening his collar. An unconscious habit. You learned how to stand, she corrected, and without fear. Taehyung swallowed. I couldn't have done it without you both, Jimin scoffed. Please, you did the work. We just yelled at you when you doubted yourself. They shared a quiet laugh. Across the room, Namjoon and Jin approached. Jin's smile was gentle, proud, almost parental. You did well, Kim Taehyung, Jin said softly. Not because you were perfect, but because you learned from your mistakes. Namjoon nodded. You asked questions. You listened. You led when it mattered. He extended a hand. If you ever want to come back, Namjoon added, eyes steady, the door will be open. Not as an intern. Taehyung bowed slightly, emotion tightening his throat. Thank you for seeing me. Jin squeezed his shoulder. We're glad we met an intern like you, Taehyung. Thank you, sir. In the elevator, Serena suddenly wrapped Taehyung in a tight hug. You will always call me, she warned dramatically. And don't change, CEO Kim or not, okay? Taehyung hugged her back just as firmly. I won't. You're stuck with me, Serena. She wiped her eyes exaggeratedly. I knew this would happen. I hate goodbyes. Taehyung smiled, voice gentle. This isn't a goodbye. It's a see you soon, Serena finished as the doors slid open. And Jungkook was there. He took one look at Taehyung's face and understood everything. You're ready, Jungkook said quietly. Taehyung nodded, stepping closer. I am. Jungkook laced their fingers together, not rushed, not possessive, just sure. I watched you grow here, Jungkook admitted, and I didn't need to guide you, that was the best part. Taehyung leaned in, resting his forehead against Jungkook's shoulder. Thank you for trusting me to become myself. Jungkook kissed his hair gently. That's all I ever wanted. As they walked out together, friends waving, interns cheering softly, Taehyung looked back one last time. Not with fear, not with regret, but with gratitude. I'll come back, he said softly. Jungkook squeezed his hand. We will. And this time, they weren't running from the past, they were returning home, with a future already in their hands. In Korea, the moment Taehyung and Jungkook stepped out of the private terminal, everything felt wrong. Black cars lined the entrance. Security stood rigid, and beyond the barricades, flash, 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 flash. The Korean media, hundreds of them, reporters shouting, cameras shaking, news vans blocking the road. Taehyung's hand tightened instinctively around Jungkook's sleeve. Kook, his voice dropped, confused. Why are there so many people? Jungkook frowned, scanning the chaos. I didn't know about this. Before either of them could step back, Mr. Kim stepped forward, dressed in a sharp black suit, his face calm, but his eyes trembling. Mrs. Kim stood beside him, gripping his arm tightly, as if she might fall apart if she let go. The crowd slowly fell silent. Mr. Kim looked straight into the cameras. My name is Kim Sang-ho, he began, his voice firm but heavy. Chairman of Kim Empire. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. He inhaled slowly. 22 years ago, my family lost something more precious than wealth, power, or reputation. Taehyung felt his chest tighten. Jungkook's jaw clenched. My only son was kidnapped. The world seemed to freeze. Reporters gasped. Cameras zoomed in. Taehyung's breath hitched. What? He whispered. For years, Mr. Kim continued, his voice breaking for the first time, my wife and I searched. We blamed ourselves. We lived every day believing we had failed as parents. Mrs. Kim wiped her tears openly now. And today, Mr. Kim said, swallowing hard, I stand here to tell the world. He turned and looked at Taehyung, not as a chairman, not as a businessman, but as a father who had waited decades. We have found our son. The silence that followed was deafening. Taehyung felt dizzy. Appa, you don't have to, his voice cracked, betraying him. The cameras followed Mr. Kim's gaze, straight to Taehyung. Mr. Kim lifted his hand, not dramatically, just truthfully. This, he said, his voice shaking, is my son. Kim Taehyung. Gasps exploded. No way! Is this real? The lost Kim heir? Taehyung staggered back. Jungkook caught him instantly. I'm not. I was... Jungkook cupped his face, grounding him. Look at me, Jungkook said softly but firmly. Breathe. His forehead touched Taehyung's. I've got you. Taehyung's eyes overflowed. I didn't know Appa would, he whispered brokenly. I swear I didn't know. Mrs. Kim stepped forward then, ignoring the cameras, ignoring the world. She cupped Taehyung's face with both hands, warm, trembling, real. My baby, she sobbed. My Taehyung. That was when Taehyung finally broke. He clutched her coat, crying like the child he never got to be. She held him tightly. You belong with us, she whispered. You always did. Jungkook stood there, his heart pounding. The world was witnessing Taehyung, not as a victim, not as someone broken, but as someone found. Mr. Kim turned back to the media, his voice steady now. My son survived hell, he said firmly, and he grew into a strong, intelligent man. He paused, and the man standing beside him, John Jungkook. Jungkook stiffened. Is someone my family owes more than gratitude. Jungkook's eyes burned. Taehyung reached for his hand desperately. Don't leave, Tae whispered. I'm here, Jungkook replied instantly. I always will be. Headlines exploded within minutes. Kim Empire heir found after 2 decades. Kim Taehyung, the lost son returns, John Jungkook by his side. But Taehyung didn't hear any of it. All he felt was Jungkook's hand in his, and for the first time in his life, he wasn't a doll. He wasn't stolen. He was home. Finally, home. The Kim residence was unusually quiet that night, warm lights glowing through tall windows. Taehyung stood at the entrance, shoes still on, fingers clenched tightly into Jungkook's coat. Kook? I'm nervous, he whispered. Tay-Tay. Minho opened his arms without hesitation and pulled his cousin into a tight hug, and this time, Taehyung didn't cry. He simply felt it. Home, with his own family. Everyone gathered slowly. Mr. Kim sat across from Mr. and Mrs. John, tea untouched. Mr. John spoke first. We didn't raise Jungkook to walk away from someone he loves, he said calmly. And Taehyung is family to us too. Mrs. John nodded, smiling softly at Tae. You already have 2 homes now, she added gently. And our son too, Taehyung. So don't think you're choosing. Taehyung blinked, stunned. Oma, he murmured, turning to Mrs. Kim. She reached for his hand immediately. My son, she said warmly. We are always with you, my baby. Mr. Kim turned to Jungkook, his voice breaking. Thank you, Jungkook, for protecting my son. Jungkook froze, then bowed deeply. I didn't protect him, Jungkook replied quietly. He protected me too. Squeezed his hand tightly. In the night, Taehyung stood on the balcony with Jungkook, city lights below, warm air around them. My life feels unreal, Tae whispered, like I'll wake up back in that shop. Jungkook turned him gently, their foreheads touching. Look at me, he said softly. This is real, baby. Don't ever think like that, okay? Taehyung rested his head against Jungkook's chest. I didn't lose my past, he said quietly. I just found my future. Inside, the Kim and John families watched silently through the glass. Two families. One son returned. And for the first time, everything was whole. 2 months of Taehyung laughing freely, eating with his parents, learning how it felt to be someone's child instead of someone's possession. And 2 months later, John Jungkook was back. Back where the city feared him the most, at the top. The John Corporation lobby looked like a war zone. Women, men, files clutched to chests, heels clicking nervously, ties loosened, sweat hidden under luxury perfume. A board outside read, Final Round, CEO, Personal Secretary. Inside the interview hall, Suga stood with a tablet, already exhausted. Why do they all look like they're attending their own funeral? He muttered. Jungkook walked in. Silence. Not dramatic silence. Terrified silence. He didn't sit. He leaned against the desk, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room like he was counting weaknesses. Let's get one thing clear, Jungkook said calmly. I don't need someone smart, gasps. I need someone who can handle everything without saying much. Everyone swallowed. Round 1. Resume hell. Candidate number 1 smiled brightly. I graduated top of my class from... Jungkook raised a finger. Stop. She froze. If I collapse from overwork at 3 a.m., Jungkook continued, what do you do? She blinked. Call an ambulance? Jungkook smiled faintly. You're fired. Next. Candidate number 2 adjusted his glasses nervously. I'm extremely organized, sir. Jungkook tossed a random file at him. What's in it? He flipped pages frantically. Financial. Wrong, Jungkook cut in. That's yesterday's trash. Suga coughed to hide his laugh. One candidate fainted, another argued back and was escorted out immediately. Someone tried flirting. Jungkook stared at them coldly. If you smile like that again, he said evenly, I'll make sure you never work in Seoul. Suga leaned closer. At this rate, he whispered, you'll end up hiring the cleaning staff. Jungkook replied flatly, if they can keep up, I don't mind. Meanwhile, Taehyung sat in the John family lounge, legs tucked beneath him, sketchbook open. Mrs. John watched fondly. You know, she said casually, Jungkook used to fire 3 secretaries a month. Taehyung looked up, shocked. That's scary. She smiled. He's worse now. Taehyung laughed softly. Whoever gets selected, he murmured. I should pray for them. Jungkook knew something was wrong the moment candidate number 27 walked in. Not fear. Not nerves. Something else. The man wore a charcoal suit, tailored too perfectly for a secretary applicant. Hair neatly tied back, thin-rimmed glasses, calm, collected. Too calm. Why does he feel familiar? Name, Jungkook said coldly, not looking up. Kim Tae. The man paused. Kim Taehyun. Jungkook's pen stopped, just for half a second. Background? Jungkook asked, finally lifting his gaze. And then, the eyes. Not identical, but warm, curious, bold in a quiet way. Business administration, Taehyun replied smoothly. Top percentile, specialized in crisis handling and executive scheduling. Jungkook leaned back slowly. You don't look like someone who wants this job. Taehyun smiled, barely. I want this job. Suga raised a brow. Jungkook folded his arms. If I call you at 2 a.m. and ask for a file that doesn't exist, what do? I ask why you think it exists, Taehyun replied instantly. Then I create it. Silence. And if I'm angry, Jungkook pressed. I let you be, Taehyun said calmly. But I won't let you be wrong, Suga coughed. That's brave. You're not intimidated, Jungkook said. Taehyun tilted his head. Should I be? Jungkook slid a confidential file across the table. Read. Taehyun skimmed it in seconds. This merger will fail, he said simply. Suga blinked. Explain? Your partner company is bleeding internally, Taehyun continued. The numbers look clean because debt is hidden under subsidiary names. Jungkook's heartbeat skipped. That's classified. Taehyun smiled politely. I noticed details. Jungkook stood. You're hired. Suga's head snapped up. Sir, you start tomorrow. Taehyun bowed. Thank you, CEO John. At the door, he paused. Oh, one more thing. Jungkook looked up. Taehyun pushed his glasses up and smiled. That smile. Please don't regret hiring me. He walked out. Jungkook sat frozen. Suga turned slowly. You do realize... That was him, Jungkook muttered. What? Kim Taehyung, Jungkook said, half amused, half betrayed. That little... His phone buzzed. Unknown. Contact, you hired me fair and square. CEO, John, see you tomorrow. Don't be late. Jungkook laughed under his breath. Oh, you're dead, he murmured fondly. But you're brilliant, Taehyung. In the office, Taehyung removed his disguise, hair falling freely as he flopped onto the couch. Jungkook loomed over him. You lied to me. I impressed you. You manipulated my interview. You fell for my brain. Jungkook grabbed his waist, pulling him close. You enjoy teasing me. I wanted to know, Taehyung whispered, if you'd choose me, even without knowing it was me. Jungkook kissed his forehead softly. Later, Taehyung leaned against Jungkook's desk, still half disguised, tie loosened just enough to be dangerous. So, Tae said lightly, any feedback for your new secretary? You planned this, Jungkook said lowly. I wanted to know, Tae murmured, stepping closer, if you'd still want me when I wasn't your comfort, but your competition. You hired me because I was good, Tae teased. Not because I'm yours. Jungkook grabbed him, thumb pressing under his jaw, forcing him to look up. You breathe like this when you're proud, Jungkook growled softly. Kook, the kiss cut him off. Slow, possessive, deep. You're playing dangerous games, Jungkook murmured. In my company. I already won, Taehyung whispered. The door clicked locked behind them, and outside. The John Empire had no idea what kind of chaos it had just hired. A few days later, meeting room. Why is this report late? Jungkook snapped. The board flinched. Secretary Kim Taehyun adjusted his glasses calmly. Because you changed the deadline twice, Tae replied politely, and forgot to approve the final figures. Dead silence. Oh, Jungkook said slowly. Continue. Suga smirked. Outside the office, why does the CEO yell at everyone except the secretary? And why does the secretary talk back and live? And why does Mr. John only drink the coffee Secretary Kim makes? A sticky note appeared on Jungkook's phone. Your tie looks ugly today. 5 minutes later, another note landed on Tae's desk. Archive room. Now, Taehyung smiled like a criminal. Behind shelves, you enjoy testing my patience, Jungkook muttered. I enjoy you losing control. One day someone will catch us, then fire me. I'd burn the company first. Footsteps. They separated instantly. Sir, Taehyung said professionally, your schedule. Jungkook cleared his throat. Sent as employees. The elevator doors slid shut with a soft ding. Silence followed. Only two people inside, CEO John Jungkook, Secretary Kim Taehyun, or, when no one was watching, Jungkook and Taehyung. The elevator began its descent. Taehyung leaned casually against the mirror, fixing his cufflinks like it wasn't driving Jungkook insane. You stared the entire meeting, Tae said lightly, not looking at him. Very unprofessional, sir. Jungkook pressed the stop button. The elevator jerked, then froze. Taehyung finally turned, eyes widening just a little. CEO John? He teased. Abusing power again? Jungkook stepped closer. Slow, controlled, dangerous. You corrected me in front of the board, Jungkook said quietly. Twice. Taehyung smiled, soft, smug. Was I wrong? Jungkook stopped inches away. No, he admitted. You were brilliant. The word lingered between them. Taehyung swallowed. Jungkook lifted a hand, brushing 2 fingers under Tae's chin. Gentle, claiming, Do you know how hard it is? Jungkook murmured. To look at you all day and pretend you're just my secretary? Taehyung's voice softened. Do you know how fun it is? He whispered, watching you lose control silently. Jungkook leaned in, forehead touching Tae's. One sound, he warned quietly, and we're ruined. Taehyung nodded. I trust you. Jungkook kissed him. Not rushed, not rough. A slow, deep kiss, like a promise stolen between floors. Taehyung's fingers curled into Jungkook's coat, breath hitching as Jungkook rested his forehead against his again. I'll never fire you, Jungkook said softly. Taehyung smiled, eyes shining. Good, he whispered, because I already own you. The elevator hummed back to life. They stepped apart instantly. By the time the doors opened, CEO John looked cold. Secretary Kim looked calm. No one ever knew that between the 23rd and 17th floor, love had been pressed into steel walls and silence. In Kim Mansion, the Kim house smelled like home. Freshly cooked food, soft music playing low, laughter drifting from the kitchen. Taehyung sat cross-legged on the living room floor, sleeves rolled up, helping Mrs. Kim fold laundry. Ioma? He asked softly, holding up a sweater. Did I always like blue? Mrs. Kim smiled, fingers trembling just a little. You cried if we dressed you in anything else, she replied. Your appa said you were dramatic even then. Taehyung laughed, a real, carefree sound. I still am. Across the room, Jungkook sat beside Mr. Kim, listening quietly as they watched him. He's happy now, Mr. Kim said suddenly. My son, he smiles with his whole heart. Jungkook nodded. He deserves it, he said. Dinner table. Everyone gathered around. Mrs. Kim placed extra food on Taehyung's plate, as usual. Ioma, it's too much, Tae protested softly. She shook her head. I missed years of feeding you, she said gently. Let me make up for it. Taehyung's throat tightened. He didn't argue. Halfway through dinner, Mrs. John laughed. You know, she teased, Jungkook never used to talk this much. Everyone looked at Jungkook. He froze. Taehyung grinned. Really? Mrs. John nodded. Now he tells us what he ate, where he went, what time he slept. Jungkook sighed. Traitor. The table burst into laughter. Later, Taehyung curled up beside his parents on the couch, head resting on Mrs. Kim's shoulder. Mr. Kim placed a blanket over him. You don't have to rush, he said quietly. Life, career, anything, my baby. Taehyung looked up. I know, he replied. But I want to do things because I'm happy now. Mrs. Kim brushed his hair back lovingly. We'll walk at your pace. Taehyung nodded, eyes fluttering closed. Across the room, Jungkook watched silently. Mrs. Kim caught his gaze and smiled. Come sit. Jungkook hesitated, then joined them. Taehyung reached out instinctively, fingers finding Jungkook's hand. No words. No explanations. Just family. John Company. The office floor buzzed, not with work but rumors. Near the pantry, two employees whispered, Did you hear? CEO John is dating Kim Taehyung, the Kim Group's son. Then why is his secretary always with him? Obviously cheating. Poor Kim Taehyung. At the copier nearby, Kim Taehyung heard everything. He didn't flinch. He just smiled. Poor me? Taehyung adjusted his glasses, gathered his files, and walked past calmly. Careful with assumptions, he said politely. They froze. Rumors grow legs, he added softly, and sometimes they walk in circles. He walked away, laughing under his breath. In Jungkook's office, they think I'm cheating, Jungkook said bluntly. On you. Taehyung burst out laughing. They think I'm being cheated on, he said, amused, while I get kissed in elevators. Jungkook groaned, pulling him close. I should fire the rumor mill. Taehyung rested his forehead against Jungkook's chest. Let them talk, he whispered. They don't know I'm the one winning. Jungkook kissed his hair gently. New Year's Eve. John Company annual gala. The ballroom glittered. Crystal chandeliers, gold and black decor, soft jazz humming beneath laughter. Every employee of John Company was present. Dressed in their best, eyes bright with excitement. This wasn't just a party. It was tradition. At exactly 11:30 p.m., the John New Year Gala always reached its peak. Taehyung stood near the side of the hall, dressed in a simple black suit, elegant, understated. Secretary Kim Taehyung to the world. Jungkook hadn't left his sight all evening. Not once. Suga stepped onto the stage. Before the countdown, he announced, we'll begin with employee recognitions. Applause filled the hall. Awards were handed out. Cheers echoed. Then, and finally, Suga said, glancing briefly at Jungkook, a special acknowledgement from the CEO himself. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jungkook stood. The room fell silent instantly. He walked onto the stage slowly, confidently, yet his eyes searched only one person. Taehyung. Johnpany exists because of trust, Jungkook began, voice steady, because of people who stay, even when things are hard. Employees nodded, proud. But this year, Jungkook continued, I learned something else. He paused. That success means nothing if you don't have someone who sees you when you're tired, who challenges you, who stays honest with you. Taehyung's breath caught. Jungkook looked directly at him now. And I realized, Jungkook said softly, that the person who changed my life was already standing beside me. Gasps spread like wildfire. Whispers exploded. Is he? Wait. Secretary Kim? Jungkook stepped down from the stage, straight toward Taehyung. The music faded. The countdown clock paused. Jungkook took Taehyung's hands gently. No hiding anymore. Kim Taehyung, Jungkook said, voice low but clear, you walked into my life disguised as my secretary, but you became my home. Taehyung's eyes filled instantly. I don't want to hide, Jungkook continued. I don't want rumors. I don't want silence. He dropped to one knee. The room erupted, but Jungkook heard nothing except Taehyung's breath. Will you marry me? Jungkook asked, not as CEO John, but as Jungkook, who loves you endlessly. Tears slid down Taehyung's cheeks. He laughed through them. Yes, he whispered. Yes, Jungkook. Always yes. Jungkook stood and kissed him. Soft, reverent, real. The hall exploded. Applause. Cheers. Tears. As fireworks lit the sky, the screen flashed 12 a.m. Happy New Year. Employees watched their feared CEO smiling like a man in love. Someone whispered, so, he wasn't cheating. Another replied, he was marrying himself. Taehyung laughed softly into Jungkook's chest. Our secret's out. Jungkook wrapped his arms around him. Good, he said. I want the whole world to know you're mine. Taehyung smiled, glowing. And I want the whole world to know, he replied. I chose you. The internet erupted. Jungkook on one knee, Taehyung's teary laugh, the kiss, the fireworks. Comment sections exploded. Open quote, I take back everything I said. The secretary was the fiancé? Iconic. This isn't a scandal. This is a fairy tale. Protect Kim Taehyung at all costs. Close quote. Even rival CEOs issued congratulations. The Kim Group released a single, calm statement. Open quote. We support Kim Taehyung's happiness. Always. Close quote. In John Mansion, Taehyung sat on the kitchen counter, sleeves rolled up, humming while chopping vegetables. Jungkook stood behind him, arms wrapped around his waist. You don't have to cook, Jungkook murmured. Taehyung leaned back into him. I want to, he replied. I like feeding my fiancé. Jungkook smiled against his shoulder. My love. They ate on the couch, legs tangled, a movie playing that neither of them watched. Taehyung rested his head on Jungkook's chest. Do you think they'll stop talking? He asked quietly. Jungkook brushed his hair gently. No, he said honestly, but they don't get you. Taehyung smiled. And you do. Jungkook kissed his temple. Every version of you. In the room, Taehyung traced the ring on his finger, still not used to its weight. It feels heavy, he admitted softly. Jungkook intertwined their fingers. Taehyung looked at him, eyes warm. I choose you, he whispered. Even on boring days, even when we fight, even when life gets loud. Jungkook kissed his knuckles. I choose you, he replied, in every lifetime. They fell asleep tangled together. No rumors, no secrets, just two people who survived everything and finally came home to each other. A few years later, the boardroom of John Corporation was silent. Glass walls, projectors glowing, top executives mid-discussion. Jungkook sat at the head of the table, calm, composed, CEO aura firmly locked in. Suga's phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the screen. Sir, he muttered carefully. It's home. Jungkook sighed softly. Put it on speaker. Bad decision. Very bad decision. The moment the call connected, Tae, I am telling you right now, come home in 1 minute, or I swear I will personally end you. The room froze. Pens stopped moving. One man genuinely stopped breathing. Jungkook's eyes widened. Don't, Tae me. I am standing in my kitchen. Your product is in my belly. Your little pumpkin is playing football inside me. A collective gasp echoed around the table. And your princess, Tae's voice cracked with fury, is crying because she wants the blue cup, not the pink one. A chair scraped loudly. Someone whispered, Did he just say product? And your son just called the dog a pa. Jungkook buried his face in his hands. Baby, breathe. I'm in a meeting. Oh, you're in a meeting? Wow. Well, I'm in a war zone. A loud crash sounded from Tae's side. Tae screamed, Put that down. No, not the flower. A tiny voice wailed in the background. Appa left us. The board members collectively died inside. Sir, everyone can hear. Jungkook shot him a look that clearly said, This is your fault. I'm tired, Jungkook. My back hurts, my feet hurt. Your daughter says you love your company more than her. Silence fell. Jungkook's expression changed instantly. He stood up. Meeting adjourned. Someone protested weakly. Sir, the deal? Jungkook grabbed his coat. I'm married. I'm pregnant adjacent, and my wife is about to commit murder. He turned back to the phone, voice softening. I'm coming home. 30 seconds. Make it 20. Yes, Mr. John. The call ended. The boardroom remained dead silent. Finally, one executive whispered, He's terrifying. Suga nodded proudly. And that, he said, standing, is why we all go home on time now. John household. The front door barely closed. Jungkook had exactly zero point 0.2 seconds to brace himself before a tiny missile slammed into his legs. His son wrapped himself around Jungkook's knee like a koala. His daughter stood behind him, arms crossed, tiny brows furrowed. You're late, she said sharply. I told Mama you don't love us. Jungkook gasped dramatically. That's slander. From the living room came Tae's voice. Calm. Too calm. Oh, you're home? How nice. Juk swallowed. That tone meant danger. Baby? Tae walked out slowly, oversized hoodie, messy hair, one on his lower back. The other held a spatula like a weapon. So, meeting went well? Jungkook nodded quickly. Great. Amazing. I canceled half of it. Tae tilted his head. Good. Then, because your son flushed my phone in the toilet. A loud gasp filled the room. The son screamed, It slipped. He did what? And your daughter told him it was okay. The daughter shrugged calmly. It was an experiment. Jungkook pressed his lips together. This was his legacy. And I cried. Instantly, Jungkook crossed the room. He gently took the spatula from Tae's hand, set it aside, and wrapped him up carefully. I'm here, he murmured. I've got you. Tae melted, just a bit. Then, Appa, I'm hungry. Appa, she touched my toy. Appa, he breathed on me. Jungkook closed his eyes. Everyone. Group hug. Now. The kids piled in. Tae laughed softly despite himself, leaning into Jungkook's chest. I don't know how you convinced me to make humans with you. Jungkook kissed his hair. You love me. Tae snorted. I tolerate you. The daughter looked up seriously. Appa? Yes, princess? Next time you're late, she said firmly. Bring ice cream. Jungkook nodded solemnly. Deal. The son raised his tiny fist. And dinosaur nuggets. Also deal. Tae sighed, smiling despite everything. As the family shuffled toward the kitchen together, loud, messy, imperfect, Tae glanced at Jungkook and whispered, I'm glad you're home. Jungkook squeezed his hand. There's nowhere else I belong. The house had never been louder, or warmer. Mrs. Kim sat on the couch with Taekook's daughter on her lap, gently braiding her hair. Eoma? The little girl asked seriously. Did Appa cry when I was born? Mrs. Kim laughed softly. Oh, sweetheart, she said, he cried before you were even born. Across the room, Mr. Kim sat on the floor with Taekook's son, building something that looked nothing like the picture on the box. This goes here, Mr. Kim said confidently. The child frowned. That's upside down, Grandpa. Mr. Kim sighed. Don't expose me. Everyone laughed. Grandparents love. Mrs. John entered from the kitchen, wiping her hands. Taehyung, she called gently. Sit down. You've been standing too long. Taehyung obeyed instantly. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. You never listened to me like that. Taehyung smiled sweetly. She's scarier. Mrs. John patted Tae's cheek lovingly. You're glowing, she said softly. You're happy. Taehyung's voice softened. I am. Jungkook watched quietly. This was the life he once never believed he deserved. Evening. Kids asleep. The house finally grew quiet, toys scattered, nightlights glowing. The children slept curled together, peaceful, safe. Taehyung stood at the balcony, arms folded loosely over his chest, watching the city lights. Jungkook joined him, slipping an arm around his waist from behind. You did great today, Jungkook murmured. Taehyung leaned back into him. They love the kids so much, he said softly. Sometimes I still can't believe this is real. Jungkook kissed his temple. It's real because you fought to survive, he said, and because you chose happiness. Taehyung turned slightly, resting his forehead against Jungkook's. I chose you, he whispered. Jungkook's voice was steady but full. And I'll choose you, he replied, even when we're old and arguing about bedtime. Taehyung laughed quietly. Soft intimacy. Unseen, felt. Later, under warm blankets, Taehyung curled against Jungkook's chest. Jungkook traced slow, familiar patterns on his back. Nothing rushed, nothing demanding. Just home. Jungkook? Tae whispered. Yes? Thank you. For finding me, he said softly. Not just that night. Every day after. Jungkook held him tighter. I didn't find you, he replied. You found your way back. I just stayed. Taehyung closed his eyes, safe. Beautiful ending. In the next room, children slept peacefully. Grandparents dreamed nearby, a family once broken, now whole. And in the quiet, two souls who had survived darkness finally rested in the light. Together. Forever. If you want one last epilogue, kids grown up, or